Explorers and Explorers, it's Miss Rogers, and I am so excited that you decided to join me today for a very special story time. So today we're reading one of my favorite books. It's called A Stone Sat Still. It is very cute. It's about a little rock and how all these different creatures interact and perceive the rock, and how the rock changes when there's different characters that come to meet the rock. So I'm super excited to read this with you. I hope that you are really going to enjoy this book just like I do. So here we go. A Stone Sat Still. There you go. You can see the little tiny snail over here and this big rock over here on this side. A stone sat still with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. So you can see that little tiny snail. Looks like he's climbing up the rock, doesn't it? And the stone was dark. Why do you think the stone was dark? Yeah, it's because it's nighttime. The sun's starting to go down, so the stone's starting to look dark. It's pretty neat. And the stone was bright. Who's sitting on that stone now? It's an owl. You're right. And why is the stone shining bright if it's dark outside? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Yep. It's because the moon's out, and the moon is shining bright on that beautiful stone, right? And the stone was loud. Have you ever heard of a loud stone before? Yeah, it's because that bird has dropped like a shell that's hitting against the rock, so now it's making a loud noise. And the stone was quiet. It looks like we have a little friend or snake that's sleeping on the rock. He's probably warming himself, because that's what snakes have to do. They have to keep themselves warm in the sunshine. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. So now we have this tall grass growing around the rock, and we see our little snail friend again. He's so cute. And the stone was rough. Look, let me see our snail sitting on there. He's got a really soft, little squishy snail body, or a slug body. So that rock might feel kind of rough against his really soft skin and little body. And the stone was smooth. Now who's sitting on our rock? It's a porcupine, and he's all prickly, so that's why the rock feels smooth to him, right? Because he's got all those little quills covering his body. Isn't that pretty neat? And the stone was green, red, purple, and blue. Why do you think that stone's changing colors? Yeah, it's changing with the seasons. So we have our summer, our spring, our fall, and our winter, right? As it's getting warmer and colder, and the times of day are getting longer and shorter, and all the colors outside are changing, the rock is changing too. And the stone was a pebble. Look how small the rock is. You see the rock right here compared to this big old giant moose? Yeah, it's just like a little tiny pebble compared to that big moose. And the stone was a hill. So we can see right here, we got our big rock, and we have our little tiny little, it almost looks like a little dung beetle to me, sitting right here. I don't know if you can see him. There you go, right there. And it looks like a mountain to him because he's so tiny. Isn't that crazy? And the stone was a feel, and the stone was a smell. So the little raccoons are rubbing their little tiny hands up against the rock, and they can feel it, And rocks are sometimes smooth, or they could be rough or cold or warm, just depending on how it feels outside. So this rock could feel a lot of different ways to our little raccoon friends. And then we see our wolf, and he's smelling it. And he can smell, what does it look like he's smelling? He's smelling all the different animals that were there before. Isn't that pretty cool? They have pretty special noses. They're able to smell a lot of really cool things. And it sat where it sat with the water, grass, and dirt, and it was as it was where it was in the world. And there's our little rock and our little snail friend again. And the stone was the wild, and the stone was a home. And we see these little mice friends that are making a home out of the stone. We can see that they're kind of living inside of it and making their little family right there. How cool. And the stone was a kitchen, and the stone was a throne. So we see this little otter, and he's using the rock as a kitchen, so they're going to use that to eat. And that's so neat. And we see this lynx, this large cat, who is sitting on the rock like it's a throne. So that's a lot of really creative ways to use a stone. I've never really even thought of those before. Have you? And the stone was a marker and a map and a maze. I'm really liking all these creative ways that the animals are using these stones. So they're using it a marker. So when geese fly south for the winter, they can use it to tell them where they are. And this little bug right here is using it as a map. So the ant is using it to map his way through wherever he's going. So that's pretty cool too. You could use them as a marker or a map. Or if we look over here, we see this little snail who's using it as a maze. They've got this, you know how snails make this ooey gooey gross stuff that kind of comes out. They're making a little maze, and this little bug right here is going to go through that maze. So that's pretty neat. I like how they're thinking about this rock in some ways I never really had thought of before. A danger, a haven, a story, a stage. Ooh. We see kind of a mysterious animal. He looks like he could be sneaky, like maybe like he's trying to hunt for something. Or we see this little bunny who's maybe hiding from this animal right here behind the stone, so he can't find him. So a haven, a safe place. A story. I like how this crab right here is doing little shadow puppets. You ever done shadow puppets before? And a stage. Have you ever found like a big rock and you used it as a stage and you climbed up on it and maybe you did a dance or a song or you pretending that you were performing? That's pretty neat too. I like how that cricket's using it as a stage. And the stone was a blink, and the stone was an age. And the stone was an island, and the stone was a wave. And we can see how this little seal is using it as an island. So that's pretty cool. If you've ever gone to the beach and you've seen, or maybe the lake too, and you've seen water kind of surrounding a rock and you can climb on it. And I like to jump from rock to rock to rock, and you can pretend like they're little islands. And sometimes I even pretend that the water is lava and you can't jump in it. So you could do that too. And the stone was a wave, and you can see the stone underneath the water right here with the wave going above it. And then we can also see our little seal friend, and he's under the water now too. Now we see our big clouds, our stormy weather. Let's see what happens next. And the stone was a memory. I don't see that stone anymore. It looks like the land's changed a little bit since we were reading it. And the stone was always. Let me see our little owl friend going above the water. The stone's still down there. It's just under the water now. Have you ever known such a place? This is pretty cool. I like these bright colors. You can kind of see these little lines right here. They kind of look like people. Isn't that pretty neat? I see purples and yellows and reds. What colors are you seeing? Where with water, dirt, and grass. Let me see our stone there again. It's got the little snail on it. A stone sat still in the world. And that kind of looks like seaweed to me. And if you look really close, you can see some little fish in there. You see the little fish swimming through the seaweed? And you got the little snail. He's still there. He's under the water now. Isn't that neat? And that's the end. So thank you so much for joining me today as we read A Stone Sat Still. I hope you really enjoyed it. I hope it gave you some ideas on how to think about rocks a little differently. Because sometimes when I see a rock, I think, wow, that's so boring. Like there's nothing really I can do with a rock because it doesn't do anything. But the really cool thing about rocks is that they don't do anything. So that gives me an endless possibility of things that I could do with rocks, ways that I could see it. And I liked how it talked about how it changes color and how it feels different from each creature that got to meet the rock. And I also liked how they used it in different ways. So it was a kitchen, and it was a throne, and it was a stage, and a map, and a maze, and a puzzle. All of those great things. So there's so many great ways that you can use rocks when you're playing outside. So I hope you had a lot of fun today. I hope that you will share this video with your friends if you really enjoyed it. Also, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button so that you don't miss any of the videos that come out from me. And I will see you next time. Bye, guys.